What's going on, everybody? We got another episode of Power Hour. My name is Pastor Kyle.
I'm Pastor Ty.
And we are excited about this one. We will be talking over the next little bit about the importance of raising up leaders in the local church.
Woo-hoo.
Tell me, Ty, why are you so passionate about this topic?
Well, I'll tell you, one, churches just as a generalization aren't very good at this. We're not intentional. Most of us aren't even actually doing it, and we're just looking to survive. Oh, we paid one person, we're good. When I would say one of the core functions of the church, and when we talk about things like raising up disciples, is raising up leaders, raising up not just the next generation, but also the current generation of leadership in the church.
Yeah, and we're talking about the Stephens of the world, the Timothys, raising up these leaders as far as the local church. We have two interns at Powerhouse as well, Alexandra and Don.
Don, yep, one of my favorite peoples. I love them both. They're so great. And man, one of my favorite things about them, we all share the same heart. We are very different kinds of leaders, and I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. One of my passions, just because you don't really see it, when you see people raise up leaders, one of the things you find is that they like to raise up leaders just like them.
Mhm.
People like when people have the same strengths as them, the same weaknesses as them. And man, we really struggle as leaders raising up leaders that look different than us. But you even look at the Bible, you look at scriptures like Ephesians 4, and it gives what is popularly known as the fivefold ministry model. It says some are called to be apostles. I would say that's very similar to me. People that are builders of the church, that can create system, that can go out and create new things. There's the prophets. I think, honestly, that's the kind of leader I learned under. I think of guys like Pastor Jeremy. Some of you know him. That man, all they care about is the word. They want to be in the word. They want to hear from God. They want to tell the people what God said.
Right.
This next one, evangelist, is just that famous person that all they want to do is for other people to know Jesus. Our pastoral intern, Don, I think is a perfect example of this. He always jokes, he's like, I don't really like Bible college, but I want everyone to know Jesus. I love that. We have pastors. It's funny in the church today, pastor is this blanket term used for anyone that's basically paid to be in leadership, but it was a very specific thing about people that care and really shepherd the people. So you're thinking people that like to do hospital visits, pray, love on people, lead a small group. One of our pastors, Pastor Bambi, I think is just a perfect example of this.
Shepherds.
Man, she does such a good job with that. And lastly, the teachers. This is one I think that you probably really connect with, Pastor Kyle.
Yeah. Going deeper into the word. And someone said once, and they honestly were like, please don't take this as an insult, but when you preach, it's like the gospel for dummies. And I absolutely loved it. It was one of the biggest compliments, because for me, a teacher is able to take something that's very complicated and simplify it in a way for everyone to hear, which I know is something you're always aiming for as well.
Yes. I always tease them like, I don't want to practice Christianese. You know what I mean? I don't want people when they come to the church to be like, I have no idea what they're talking about. I want someone, whether it's their first time at church or whether they've grown up in church, to understand the words that I'm using and understand the language that we're using. But no, I love this topic because, man, I think there's famous quotes like organizations, churches rise and fall with leadership. There's all kinds of stuff. But I think the number one thing churches are missing a lot of times is leadership. We just don't have enough people leading and guiding the way. And I think there's sometimes people that are unequipped. I think there's sometimes people that aren't even called or gifted that are just stepping up because they're nice people and they see need. But there is such a lack of leadership within the church.
Yeah. Or you see the pastor that feels like they have to do everything themselves, and then they're overworked, they're burned out, instead of taking someone, because I was always told, if you could find someone that you could train up to do your job 80% as good as you, then train them up and send them out to do that job. And start taking stuff off your plate so you can take what is on your plate and do it more excellently.
No, I love that. And I think you're 100% right. And man, I just think we're missing it. I think one of the reasons why churches are struggling and why we're just not finding a lot of pastors, a lot of churches anymore, is because we have failed to equip the next generation. And even the modern generation is we're so worried about our influence and where we are that we forget that one of our primary jobs is to raise up leaders for the future. Something I think that people both within our church and out of our church might not recognize and be surprised by is there's not a lot of people paid to work at our church.
Right.
Most of our leaders, we have a leadership meeting every Monday, and we sit around, and there's sometimes up to 15 to 20 of us around that table that are leaders in our church. And can I tell you, the vast majority, I think all but 3 of us are not paid, we're volunteers.
Right.
And so what this allows us to do is to run Powerhouse and reach the people that we want to reach without letting finances be the limiter in it. So we have multiple campuses. We're getting ready to even launch more. We're opening up more services. We want to start more ministries. And man, we don't have the money to pay for all the things, but you know what we do have is leaders that we've raised up from within, that love the culture, that believe in the mission and want to give their life away for other people to know Jesus.
No, that's good. And we know that as we are expanding our reach, expanding the influence, spreading the gospel message to all of Idaho, God will send the workers
Mm.
to the places that need the workers. I think so many people are like, man, we would grow if we had more leaders. And I think they get it reversed, that it should be, you should be growing to a point that you really need leaders.
Mm.
And then God would send them to you.
Yeah, I've been blessed. I took on this church a little over 2 years ago, and it was a little bit smaller and a little bit older. And over these last 2 years, Pastor Kyle, you're the only one on our leadership team that we've brought in from the outside. Everyone
Appreciate
else,
that.
yeah, man. You had some secret sauce I think we needed, but man, everyone else has been raised up from within. And that's not by accident. That's very intentional.
Yeah.
Because man, no one's going to believe in the mission that we have, the church that we have, that want to reach the community that we have, like people that are homegrown from within.
Yeah. I feel like when I came in, me and you had a close relationship, and the church that I was lead pastoring at the time, we had very similar strategies, very similar DNA. So it was so easy for me to come in.
Yeah.
I really didn't even have to shift my mindset at all to connect and to feel like I understood what made Powerhouse tick. But it's hard for a lot of people to try to go in and to shift your mindset and to be able to conform to the culture of the church. That's why growing leaders is 9 out of 10 times so much better than try to bring them in from the outside.
Yeah, I think something I learned very quickly in my couple of years here at the church and being my first time as lead pastor is number one, I knew that I wanted kids ministry right off the bat. We didn't have um, the type of ministry to children that I wanted when I first got here, and I was like, man, we need a kids pastor. Unfortunate side is we didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I'm out there looking for who can I get for how cheap I can get, and the whole time I'm praying about it, looking, man, Bambi, who's now on staff, that was sitting in the church just un feeling uncalled and unequipped. Man, when God kind of aligned things, showed me she was the right person, we began to work together, and now she's, I would say, one of the most sought after, one of the greatest kids pastors I've
a
ever
rock
worked
star.
with. Yeah, she's amazing, and she was sitting in the house. And man, I look at, Pastor Kyle, before you, I brought in one other person that was from the outside to work on our staff, and man, they're great. I love them to death. But it was challenging in spots, mostly because they had worked in other places and had other ideas of how church should look, how church should run, the culture that they were bought into that wasn't ours, and it created some tension. And man, I think sometimes the what's great about raising people from within is there's not that awkwardness of will they fit in, will this or will that, but they're already homegrown. The influence they have, it's not because you put a title on them, it's because they've earned it.
Right.
They're there, they're a part of it. They've worked hard, they've rise to the ranks, and people want to hear what they have to say.
Oh, that's good. And I think the thing you touched on when you're looking at the fivefold ministries, it's so common for churches nowadays to bring in pastors that are very similar, because obviously it's nice to work with people that you are alike in a lot of ways, and a lot of your friends, you're going to be around people that is very similar to you. But in ministry, it's so important to be able to fill the gaps. Like Bambi, our operations pastor, she does stuff that I would absolutely hate doing. If I'm totally honest, like I am not a detail oriented guy working on accounts and working on like the behind the scenes type stuff. it would absolutely drive me insane. I'm more the big picture guy. I want to, I enjoy being upfront. I enjoy being around people. I'm a very social person. And I think on the flip side, she wouldn't like what I do as much. Like I don't think she would love jumping on and just, having these podcasts and this and that. So she has her role in the church that she absolutely thrives and succeeds and blesses Ty and I because we don't have to step into that position. And then Ty has a role that is very unique to him as the leader of the church. And then we see leaders rising up right now that are slowly taking other roles of the church. And when you put it all together, you realize all of a sudden the weakness of one, another person complements, and the weakness of another, that other person then complements, and you find yourself with a really, really strong staff that has very few weaknesses because of that.
Yeah, I love that. And man, I'm just gonna be brutally honest. One of my pet peeves is I'll go to these pastor conference, I'll go to these leadership things, and it feels like half the sessions that they do are trying to tell pastors and convince pastors not to quit. Don't quit, don't quit. You can do this. Hang in there. And I'm just looking at these pastors like, what about your ministry, your life, your church is so bad that you want to quit all the time, man? Like maybe you need to find a new church. And one of the things that I honestly think it is most of those guys that are pastors and leading these churches have to fake pretending to be someone they're not in order for them to feel like they can be comfortable around people or this or that. And it's like they're putting on a play. And we both know if you're putting on a play, pretending to be something, it gets real exhausting and real tiring very quick.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love about having this this leadership team that we've built that are all people that I trust, that I love, that are some of my closest and greatest friends, is I don't got to pretend to be nobody. I can be my authentic self. I
Yeah.
can be real. I can share things that maybe I would struggle to share with people I didn't know very well that were came from the outside. And man, there's just a freedom about it. Is like these aren't just because of how we raised up leaders from within. These aren't just people that I'm like do a great job at the work. These are people that I live life with, and man,
Right.
that bless me rather than burden me.
No, that's really good. If you're not able to be authentic, you're not going to last very long because you can only fake it for so long. For me, I think there's so many pastors out there that are getting burnt out because they are not taking the time to invest in other people. Like we look at Jesus's ministry, and he had those moments where he is preaching in front of 5,000, and he's in the synagogues, and he has crowds and crowds of people. But we see it over and over again where he takes his 12 disciples aside to minister to them, to train them, to invest in them. And then on top of that, he had three that he spent even more time with that he would constantly take even away from the 12 sometimes to spend more and more time with. And we see the result of that. He leaves, heads back up to heaven, sends the Holy Spirit, and then those 11, and then one that had still been following, but that they added to replace Judas. Uh, it was those apostles that became the leaders of the future church.
Yes. No, that's so true. And man, I had someone say something yesterday. I actually think it was you, Pastor Kyle, that said something in our meeting yesterday that one day everyone sitting around this room at this leadership meeting won't be at this church anymore.
Right.
And man, it was such a sobering thought to me that one day, uh, I I hope a long, 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 long time from now, I'm not going to be the pastor powerhouse anymore. And man, if I want this ministry, if I want this church to outlive my time here, then I've got to leave a legacy, which I think is really the people that I've trained up and left so that the church can function and function at the same level, hopefully better in the future once I'm gone. You know what I mean? And I think of when I first got here, we were one church, one service, 40 people. And now we've got multiple campuses. We've got multiple services. I started a bunch of things, you know what I mean? I took on campuses, I'd lead them both. And eventually now I don't even a lot of times get to visit our other campuses. You know what I mean? I don't preach every week. I don't run all the ministries like I used to. And man, it might have started with me doing a lot of things, but over time, I was able to pass things off as we've raised up people and equipped people. And now things are running bigger and badder than I could ever run by myself.
And you never know how things will come for full circle. For instance, we take the new Fort Hall campus pastor, Troy McGill.
Hmm.
What a lot of people don't know is that Troy and I go back all the way to 2015. When I took my first youth pastor position, he was there as my youth leader. And he was just as a volunteer. He used to lead the youth a little bit, uh, but he saw the importance of having a pastor there. So he kind of took a step back. And in so many ways, he was the Barnabas to my Paul, and he was a huge just encouragement to me and a huge supporter of my ministry. And he grew up in a lot of ways, even though he's older than me. He grew up in Catalyst Youth there in Milton Freewater in Oregon. And I was able to train him up and encourage him and to help him with preaching and to kind of get him to a place that right towards the end of my ministry there, he ended up going to another town that he's been ever since the last 10 years. And now he's the lead pastor there in Hebner. And now he's going to come to be the campus pastor. So I think it's just cool. He's a leader that, 10 years ago, I had the ability and had the privilege of raising up. And now not only am I at Powerhouse, but he's also coming to Powerhouse. It's just cool to see how God directs these moments and these relationships.
Yeah. I also think of that verse Jesus talks to his disciples and he's looking out and he says, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few."
Yeah.
And he says, "Pray for more workers for the harvest." And I remember my first year here, man, I was praying all the time, "God, I need help. God, how do I do this? God, I feel lonely. God, what do I do?" And over just the last couple years, God has brought more and more people around us that, man, again, not only help us do the work of the ministry, but are a blessing to have as friends
Sure.
and as fellow leaders of the church. And I think of one of our pastoral interns, Adon, one of my favorite people of all time. And if you haven't met him, man, you need to. He's awesome. I remember his first week at the churches. I'd probably been at the church not even a year yet, and he shows up and he's got the weirdest haircut. He shaved his head to have the bowl where he's bald on top and got hair on the sides, but he does it on purpose. He's got head tattoos. He's trying to dress pretty gangster because at the time he was pretty gangster. You know what I mean? Now he's gangster for the Lord. But he looks at me and we talk, and he's like, we still laugh about it today. The first thing he says to me is, "Hey Ty, you're cool and all. I want nothing to do with church. I want nothing to do with God. And I'm only here because my mom made me." And I remember teasing him saying, "Well, first of all, dude, that's weird because you're 30. Why is your mom making you do that thing?" But secondly, I was like, "That's cool, man. We're just glad you're here." And he says because of how we embraced him and accepted him, like God began to transform his life. And I remember after he gave his life to Jesus and had been coming to the church and volunteering, I have this moment where God spoke to me that Adon was called to be in ministry and he was starting to feel the same thing. And he and I both remember this moment where I looked at him and said, "Man, are you ready to change the world?"
Mm-hmm.
And, that's before I even knew Adon as well as I do now. And man, how many people are in our churches, the Bambis, the Alexandras, the Adons, the Amandas, the Kyles, even the Ties that other people might overlook. Cause I'll tell you what, the lead pastor of the church I got saved in, he was not thinking there's something there for Ty. You know what I mean? He would not see pastor in my future. But how many people are in our church that could be high level volunteers in our kids ministry, on our worship ministry, like maybe one day go to Bible college, become pastors, become campus pastors. How many of them are sitting in our church and they're the things that we're praying for? They just need to be trained up and equipped.
Yeah. I think every leader at some point someone took a chance on, really is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Like I think about who I was as a youth student, and even in college, like I always tell this story, but I was so scared of talking in front of people that I don't think I ever passed a speech class with anything more than a D, because I would purposely skip the speeches. I would tell the teachers, I'm going to do all the other work. I'll write my speech, but I am not going to give it. I don't care if there's 5 people in the class. I was terrified of public speaking. I was awkward. I was a shy kid. I thought a good outfit was neon on neon. And like, I was not the person that you would look at even 12 years ago and say, man, he's going to become a great pastor someday. And I think that just goes back to the fact that it's like you look at when David was called to be the king, and the prophet goes from one person to another, and David's like the last person, and God's like, yeah, him. And he's like, really?
Yeah.
You want him to be king?
Norm.
And it just comes back to the fact that like God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And when you have a calling on your life, it's up to us as leaders to be able to see that, like you did with the Dawn, and say you have a calling on your life, and be able to start calling that out in them, and kind of put them in that place where they can start pursuing that call.
No, that's so good. And I relate so much to what you're saying, because I remember, uh, man, it's so embarrassing even sharing this story, but I remember my first week going to youth group for the first time at 16 years old. And I showed up with pink fairy wings on, believe it or not.
Such a
And
fairy.
I was trying to get the attention of this girl, and I thought that was the best way to do it. Turns out it didn't work. But I remember Jeremy strolling in. He was the youth pastor in his 20s, gangster limping towards me. I thought he was there to steal my lunch money. And uh, man, I went to a youth group where I'd say most of us kids were broken and lost. We were all skaters with father issues, the biggest issue being we didn't have any. And man, it was messy, it was broken, and I'm so thankful for it because of what it did to for my life, and ultimately the legacy that now I get to be a part of leaving. And so I just want to encourage any of you out there that maybe feel like you're disqualified from from becoming a leader in the church, or maybe you're thinking of people in the church and you don't think you see anyone. Never underestimate what God can do with someone like Ty or Kyle.
Right.
Never underestimate the transforming power of God and what it can do for you, because some of the most amazing people in the Bible or that I've met are people that you would probably least likely think would be pastors.
Yeah. And I'll say this, don't wait until you are ready, or even you feel ready to go into your call. If God is calling you to something, and you are hearing it multiple times, usually God will be telling other people that as well, for them to go and tell you. If you are feeling something, you're like, what, man, I'm just not ready. Well, God is not asking you to do something when you are ready. He is asking you to do something when he is calling you to do something. So talk to your pastor, reach out to your leaders, and hopefully your leaders are able to do the same thing, whether you're here at Powerhouse or at a different church, and pursue that calling. Because there is a point of it where I had a youth pastor and a lead pastor who helped push me in the right direction to get me into ministry. But at the same time, looking back, it was also for me just a level of tenacity that said, I am going for this. And there was just a mindset shift that happened eventually, where I just said, no matter what, I am pursuing ministry. I am called to be a pastor, and I'm going to make that happen. And I think for you, if you are feeling that calling, doesn't matter what age you are, doesn't matter what your skill set level is or anything like that. If you have a calling on your life, it is up to you to pursue it. Don't wait simply for opportunities. Pursue opportunities. Pursue the calling. And also, I would say this: someone that we both know and love once told us this. Stop waiting for someone to give you a platform. If God wants you to have a platform, then build it yourself.
Yep. No, that's so true. I'm more impressed by someone that builds their own platform than walks on somebody else's.
Yeah.
So I think that's so true.
No, that's good. And that's why I think it's so important for Powerhouse, for us to continue to be growing our leaders and to be training them up, because some point God's going to call us all home. He's going to call us into different missions, into different things. I mean, Paul never stayed too long at one place, but he always left leadership there that would continue to grow. And at the end of the day, Ty, you have grown Powerhouse from from 40 people to now we're right there at 300 people. I mean, it's incredible. But at the end of the day, it's God's church. Whatever he wants to do with the church, he's going to do. And all we can do in the meantime is to be obedient and be good stewards with what we have.
Yeah, I think of that verse, some plant, some water, but it's the Lord that controls the harvest, right? And that's all we're trying to do is be obedient to who the Lord calls us to be and what he calls us to do, and watch him do what only he can do.
So for our listeners, pursue the calling. If you're in leadership, always be looking for the next generation, raising them up in the Lord. Never be worried about who could take your job. Man, I'll tell you what, I am always looking for the next generation who is going to kick me out of my position and send me somewhere else because they're ready to take it over. I mean, God willing, that will happen for every pastor, every leader out there. But we hope you enjoyed this episode of Power Hour. We hope this week it has been a blessing for you all. We absolutely love you guys. Hopefully this has both encouraged and challenged you to pursue the Lord in a deeper way and to continue to experience the power of God. We love you all. Goodbye.